Let's talk about setting up seamless paper. The reality is, as a photographer, very often you're going to be working alone. If you're doing a client job, they might not have a budget for an assistant to help you. And sometimes there actually is a budget for an assistant, but you say to yourself, I'd rather just pocket that money and deal with everything by myself. So we're going to show you one method of setting up seamless paper when you're working alone. So what you're going to need is a C-stand similar to this. And you're going to need a boom arm. Okay, so these are two different things. We have a C-stand and we have a boom arm. So we're going to need two of these, and we're going to use these to support the seamless paper. So the process looks like this. So we're going to feed the paper through one of these boom arms like this. And we're going to support the paper. We could even use the paper to move the C-stand a little bit if you want. Okay. And now we're going to bring in the second boom arm here. And we're going to put this in. Now this process is a little bit sloppy, a little bit imprecise, but it's going to work. Okay. So we're going to feed the paper into one of these boom arms like this. And we can actually use the paper to move the boom arm if we need to over here. We can actually move it if we need to move the seamless. Okay. Now once we have it on one C-stand, we're going to bring in the second. So if this process that I'm showing seems a little bit tedious to you with a lot of going back and forth, don't worry. If you do this a few times, you're going to find it's very smooth. So here we are. We have the paper balanced between the two C-stands on the boom arm. And what we need to do now is to start pulling paper out, okay? I'm going to grab an A-clamp. So we're going to use this to stop the paper from moving at a certain part in the process. Just hold on to this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start pulling the paper down while at the same time rolling the paper up. So it looks like this. So again, we're rolling up and we're rolling down. And what we're trying to do is roll out enough paper so that when I raise this paper to about 9 feet tall, this paper will reach the floor. And if I need to, I'll have enough to actually spread out on the floor. Sometimes we don't need it to spread out on the floor, sometimes we do. Today we don't need it to spread out on the floor, but I'm just trying to guess how much paper do I need to roll down from here while rolling it up here. So for now I'm going to just keep going until I get quite a bit. Not an exact science, I'm just guessing. I think that's enough. Now I'm actually going to add a little more to the bottom by just dropping this paper down. And I'm going to catch the top before it starts rolling. I want to try to avoid any wrinkles happening in the paper. Depending on how I shoot, that could be a problem. Might not be a problem depending on what I'm doing with the background. Now we're going to clamp the background here using an A-clamp. So now what I need to do is raise this to about 9 feet tall, so that this bottom paper will start to unroll and I'll have a nice wall. So because I'm working alone, I'm going to just raise it a little bit on one side and a little on the other. So I'm going to go on this side and just raise it a little bit. You see, that's just inches that I raised on this side. On the opposite side, same thing. We're always starting on the top knob as we start to raise the paper. So I'm only raising it a little bit. This is, I don't know what that is, about 7 or 8 inches. Raise it up a little bit here. Now we're going to go to the other side and raise that a few inches. So each time, it's a little bit uneven now. The left side is higher. Now I'm going to make the right side higher. So now the right side is a little bit higher than the left. If you step back a bit, you'll see that. Each time I raise it, I'm going just a little bit higher on one side versus the opposite side. Now I'm going to level it off because I've pulled quite a bit of this extension out. So we're about here. Now it's level, and I'm going to start that same process again of just raising each side. So now we're going to raise the lower section. But again, it's just a matter of inches, that's all. If I were to raise it too much, this side might start to collapse, or the whole thing would fall, or I might start getting wrinkles. So just 3 or 4 inches. I'm going to go to the other side. Same thing. 3 or 4 inches to make it even. If we step back, we'll see it's even now. And once it's even, I'm going to increase it by 3 or 4 inches on the right side. That gives me a few inches to play with on this side. So again, we're leveling the paper first and then trying to go up just a few more inches like that. Now, if I were working with a partner, it would be much easier to have us together raise the top section and then raise the middle. But we're trying to show you how to do this alone because, again, the reality is it's very likely you will be doing this alone. Okay, so this is actually high enough because it's over my head. I'm going to go just a few more inches just for safety, but we're actually good where we are. Just a little bit here and here. Okay, now we're even. And notice it really doesn't matter if the paper is completely even because it just turns white behind me. If you're looking at it now, you can't tell if it's crooked, okay? But that's our process for unrolling the paper. Now, if we need to, we can start rolling this out like this. So all we would do now is roll this paper out like this. Maybe put a book on it or one of these sandbags, and then we just tape the paper down. For the shoot that we're doing today, we're not worried about the feet. So I'm actually going to allow this to just roll itself back up, and we could actually just shoot with the paper with a roll at the bottom, and we're focusing here. We're not photographing the model's feet. But that's the process of setting up the background paper when you're working alone.